Did you ever catch Voldemort's metaphor? He isn't just a dark wizard, he's a warning about the terrifying nature of absolute power. There is no good and evil, only power, he sneers. A dictator's creed, echoed across history in totalitarian regimes, both imagined and real. From Orwell's pages to our own world, the machinery of control speaks with the same voice. In places where power blinds, many miss the metaphor, unable to see the dark wizard as a symbol of their own reality. Let's pull back the curtain and decode the warning hidden in plain sight. Voldemort's empire is built on fear. The Dark Mark isn't just a symbol, it's psychological warfare, a promise of pain and a warning that terror reigns. The Ministry, once a symbol of order, becomes his puppet, its corridors filled with suspicion. Harry is branded undesirable number 1. The Order of the Phoenix cast as terrorists. This is classic totalitarianism. Create public enemies, isolate dissenters, and use surveillance to keep everyone afraid. Obey or be destroyed. In these regimes, fear is psychological, an assault on the mind. Voldemort's imperious curse turns friends into enemies, erasing autonomy and trust. The Ministry of Lies rewrites reality, transforming the Daily Prophet into a propaganda tool. In China, the CCP's Great Firewall and state-run media create a sealed world where history is curated and dissent erased. At Hogwarts, propaganda replaces education and questioning authority is punished. Truth becomes whatever serves those in power. In China, fear and propaganda forge invisible chains on the mind. People grow up surrounded by surveillance, censorship, and a single official narrative. For many, stories like Harry Potter are pure escapism, because the real-world mechanisms of control are so normalized the metaphor is hidden in plain sight. The tragedy is, the very people who might see their world reflected in fiction are the ones most blinded to it. At the very core of Voldemort's regime lies a timeless and toxic strategy: divide and conquer. His ideology of pure-blood supremacy is the wizarding world's terrifying version of fascism, a tool designed to cleave society into a righteous us and a despised them. In Deathly Hallows, this poisonous philosophy is institutionalized through the Muggle-born Registration Commission. This body isn't just an administrative office, it's a weapon of persecution. It operates on the foundational lie that Muggle-borns are not legitimate magic users but thieves who have stolen their powers. This narrative dehumanizes an entire segment of the population, branding them as corrupt, inferior, and a threat to the purity of the magical community. This us versus them framework is essential for rallying followers. It gives wizards like Bellatrix Lestrange and the Malfoy family a sense of superiority and a cause to fight for, justifying their cruelty as a necessary act of purification. By creating an internal enemy, Voldemort distracts from his own tyrannical ambitions and channels societal anxieties towards a vulnerable scapegoat. The pure-blood rhetoric provides a twisted moral justification for hatred and violence, making his followers feel like they are righteous crusaders preserving their heritage rather than agents of a brutal dictator. It is a powerful illusion that binds his base together with the intoxicating glue of shared prejudice and manufactured grievance. The Chinese Communist Party employs a strikingly similar game, demanding absolute loyalty to the party over any form of individual or cultural identity. It has repeatedly reshaped the us versus them framework to maintain control, tailoring its enemies to fit the needs of each political era. During Mao's rule, it was the landlords, rightists, and counter-revolutionaries who were cast as class enemies of the proletariat. Even Xi Jinping's father was purged as a counter-revolutionary. In the 1980s and 90s, especially after Tiananmen, the party shifted focus to ideological threats. Liberal intellectuals, activists, and those perceived to be influenced by Western democracy. Over time, new others emerged. Uyghurs and Tibetans were branded as separatists, Falun Gong practitioners as cultists, and outspoken lawyers and feminists as foreign-backed disruptors. Today, anyone who challenges the party's narrative, whether they're inside China or overseas Chinese speaking out, risks being labeled a traitor. These shifting definitions of the enemy have helped the CCP maintain a siege mentality, justifying repression in the name of unity and survival. Dissenters are not just critics, they are smeared as anti-China forces or agents of foreign interference, a label as damning as Harry's brand of undesirable number one. This tactic effectively isolates and demonizes those who challenge the state, making it easier to justify their persecution in the eyes of the public. This plays out most brutally in the CCP's sinicization policies, which aggressively target ethnic and religious minorities like the Uyghurs in Xinjiang and the Tibetans. These campaigns are framed as efforts to promote national unity, but in reality, they are a forced assimilation designed to erase distinct cultural and religious identities. According to a 2024 Amnesty International report, over 1 million Uyghurs have been detained in re-education camps where they are subjected to intense indoctrination. Just as Voldemort's regime hunts Muggle-borns to purify the wizarding world, the CCP persecutes minorities to enforce its monolithic vision of Chinese identity, proving that the politics of division are a universal tool of totalitarian control. Under Voldemort, Hogwarts becomes a factory for obedience, not a place of learning. The Carrows take over, gutting the curriculum of creativity and critical thinking. Muggle studies turns into pure-blood propaganda, and students are forced to practice dark arts on each other. This is trauma, not education. Cruelty is normalized, compassion extinguished. The goal: break young minds, ensuring loyalty or fear, not leadership. The system produces followers, not thinkers. This grim model echoes the CCP's approach to schooling. Patriotic education glorifies the party, with textbooks erasing inconvenient truths like Tiananmen Square and the Cultural Revolution. History becomes propaganda, instilling loyalty and suspicion of the outside world. The Gaokao, China's college entrance exam, rewards rote memorization over critical thought. Students excel at repeating state-approved answers, but rarely question them. Obedience is rewarded, curiosity is punished. Like at Voldemort's Hogwarts, the system is designed to suppress dissent and ensure the regime's ideology is passed down unchallenged. The result: a generation trained to follow, not to lead. The pursuit of knowledge is replaced by the enforcement of fear. Logic and reason are casualties in this war on free thought. The school's true purpose is to break, not empower, young minds. China's schools foster passivity through relentless pressure and trauma. Harsh discipline, competition, and overwhelming workloads leave little room for creativity. Many students endure verbal abuse and public humiliation, all for the Gaokao. This doesn't build resilience, it creates anxiety and fear of nonconformity. Minds become risk-averse and passive, conditioned to avoid questions. Creativity suffocates in a system obsessed with the right answer. Passivity is the point. A tired, fearful population is easy to control. That's why a Chinese Harry Potter could never emerge. In a place like China, where censorship shapes even imagination, creating a figure like Voldemort would itself be an act of political dissent. Because imagining unchecked evil is unthinkable under unchecked power, dissenters like Liu Xiaobo pay the ultimate price. Logic, the tool for deconstructing propaganda, is removed from education on purpose. Without it, citizens can't dissect manipulative rhetoric or see its reflection in state media. Creativity is stifled, logic erased, and passivity ingrained. This psychological barrier keeps many from seeing the truth. The scars of indoctrination run deep, shaping generations. Chinese readers experience through a lens shaped by their education system. They enjoy the magic and adventure, but the deeper warning about tyranny is often lost. Chains on creativity and logic create a blind spot. Voldemort's regime feels like fantasy, not a warning. The crushing of creativity means alternative political systems are hard to imagine. Grassroots rebellion like Dumbledore's army seems pure fiction when organizing is suppressed. Suppressed logic makes it hard to recognize propaganda in real life. Passivity, ingrained by trauma, widens the gap. The courage to defy authority, central to Harry's journey, is systematically punished. Neville's heroism may seem reckless, not inspiring to those taught that conformity is survival. The story's moral, stand up to tyranny, clashes with lived experience. The tragedy isn't a lack of intelligence, but a lack of tools. They're like wizards forbidden from learning defense against the dark arts, defenseless against real-world manipulation. Voldemort's tyranny stays fiction, while real chains remain invisible. Voldemort's rise began with charm, not force. As Tom Riddle, he was brilliant and polite, earning trust while hiding his ambition. His charm masked his true intentions, letting him gather power unnoticed. The CCP's early strategy was similar. During China's Civil War, the party presented itself as progressive and democratic, not totalitarian. It spoke of land reform and unity, appealing to Western hopes for a pluralistic China. American diplomats saw potential partners, not future tyrants. The illusion was devastatingly effective. The US bought into the narrative, withdrawing support from the nationalists. Mao never intended to share power. He prepared for total takeover. By the time the truth emerged, it was too late. Like Tom Riddle charming Slughorn, the CCP used Western ideals against the West. Power isn't always seized with violence, sometimes it's won with a smile. The world mistook performance for partnership. When the mask dropped, a new red flag flew over Beijing. The Great Deception had succeeded. The serpent's charm paved the way for tyranny. After Mao's disasters, China was on the brink. The CCP adapted, orchestrating a new deception. It positioned itself as a counterweight to the Soviet Union re-engaging the West. Nixon's handshake with Mao in 1972 began a sophisticated illusion. Deng Xiaoping perfected it, trading Mao suits for Western ones and promising reform. The West saw a communist regime ready to change, eager for partnership. But this was a mask, not a transformation. The party's monopoly on power never wavered. Reform was survival, not democracy. Deng used market capitalism to create wealth and legitimize the party. Foreign investment poured in, but the party's grip tightened. This was the CCP's Tom Riddle phase, charming on the surface, ruthless underneath. Panda diplomacy and reformist slogans distracted from repression. The world mistook charm for change and opened the door. The regime's nature never changed, only its tactics. The mask of reform hid an unyielding hunger for control. In 1989, the mask slipped at Tiananmen Square. The world hoped for change, but the regime responded with tanks and massacre. Outrage and sanctions followed, but the party rewrote the narrative, calling it a victory over chaos. The world's outrage faded, greed returned. Within years, business resumed, and the lie held. The ultimate prize, China's entry into the World Trade Organization in 2001. The party promised economic reform would bring political change. The West, driven by hope and profit, believed it. Corporations saw a vast market and cheap labor. Governments wanted lower costs. Forced labor, censorship, and repression were ignored. Like wizards ignoring Voldemort's return, the West looked away. They wanted access and deals, not inconvenient truths. The Trojan horse of globalism was welcomed, believed to be a gift. But the party used global wealth to strengthen its control and build new ambitions. In the silence of willful ignorance, the regime grew stronger. The world's desire for fantasy blinded it to reality. The CCP's deception was complete. The cost freedom, truth, and the hope for real change. The world opened the door, and the serpent walked in. The consequences are still unfolding. Voldemort's downfall is not caused by an external enemy but by the very nature of the power he wields. His regime is a runaway machine of terror, growing through fear and destruction, but doomed by its own logic. Paranoia becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy of betrayal and ruin. His obsession with the Elder Wand leads him to destroy his most loyal servant, blinded by fear. His Horcruxes, meant to make him immortal, scatter his soul and make him vulnerable. He cannot comprehend the power of love, Lily Potter's sacrifice, because it's a force he cannot control. In the terror machine he built, no one is safe, not even its creator. The same tragic arc is mirrored in the Chinese Communist Party, where leaders must constantly consolidate power to survive. The Chinese Communist Party's purges reveal a system that devours its own, keeping officials in constant fear. Xi Jinping's anti-corruption drive is a permanent inquisition, spreading paranoia and stifling initiative. Loyalty is brittle, born of fear, not conviction. The party's grip chokes economic dynamism, fueling youth unemployment and unrest. Like Voldemort, the party's obsession with control only weakens its own foundations, making the entire structure more brittle. During Xi Jinping's first term, 2012-2017, over 170 ministers and deputy ministers were sacked or jailed. This wave of purges was part of his high-profile anti-corruption campaign, targeting both tigers, senior officials, and flies, low-level bureaucrats. While branded as a moral cleanup, the campaign also functioned as a powerful political tool, eliminating rivals, consolidating control, and enforcing personal loyalty to Xi. After 2018, when Xi abolished term limits, the purges became even more aggressive. Officials from the military, state-owned enterprises, finance, and academia began disappearing or facing prosecution. By weaponizing anti-corruption, Xi created an atmosphere of fear and obedience, echoing Mao-era tactics. Even high-ranking allies are never truly safe. The greatest cost of total control is the starvation of the human mind. By crushing creativity and critical thinking, the CCP stifles innovation and drives its brightest minds away. Like Voldemort, a closed mind becomes its own prison, powerful but unable to adapt or survive. In the end, a system that crushes minds can only rust and decay from within. J.K. Rowling, writing from the freedom of Great Britain, saw the flaw in tyranny with perfect clarity. Her portrayal of Voldemort is a warning. Runaway power is a runaway train, destined to crash. The very mechanisms that create its strength, fear, paranoia, and suppression, ensure its collapse. Even in China, the cracks are beginning to show. The party can censor dissent, but it cannot erase the lived reality of its people forever. The master of the runaway machine is its first and most tragic victim. Voldemort's obsession with power blinds him, mistaking dominance for true strength. True power is relational, built on trust and consent, not fear. The CCP's leadership risks the same blindness, isolating themselves from reality and silencing dissent. The more they control, the more blind and paranoid they become. In the end, the seeds of collapse are sown by the tyrant himself. In the end, it all comes back to a story. A boy with a lightning bolt scar, a dark lord, and the world they fought to control. Rowling's true magic was her warning. Tyranny conquers not just nations, but minds. Voldemort's regime mirrors the Chinese Communist Party, built on fear, division, and the destruction of creativity. In China, the tools to see this reflection are taken away by censorship and propaganda. Citizens read a manual for their own oppression and see only magic. A society that silences its storytellers cannot see itself clearly. Where history is censored and artists fear the red pen, imagination is chained. Only freedom lets us hold a mirror to power and create stories that resonate worldwide. The courage to imagine and speak truth is itself an act of rebellion. Change begins when free minds question power. Together, we can break any spell. So did you catch the metaphor? This journey through Hogwarts and modern China is not just an academic exercise. It is an urgent call to see the world around you with clearer eyes. It is an invitation to think critically about the nature of power, not just in some faraway totalitarian state, but in your own world, in your own society. What systems, subtle or overt, work to chain minds where you are? What unquestioned narratives are you being fed? What truths are being silenced because they are inconvenient for those in charge? The fight for a free mind is a universal one, and it is happening all the time. This isn't just about Voldemort, and it certainly isn't just about one political party in one country. It is about the timeless, seductive nature of lies. It is about how easily power can hide behind a mask of charm and reason, as Tom Riddle did for years. It is about how effectively fear can silence truth, turning a population of witnesses into a crowd of bystanders. And it is about the tragic willingness of the world to look away when the truth is too uncomfortable, too inconvenient, or simply bad for business. Voldemort is a metaphor for all those who rise through deceit, and for all of us who, through silence or complicity, let them. Whether you find it in the pages of a beloved fantasy series or in the headlines of today's news, the lesson remains the same, and it is as powerful as any magic. It is a lesson that echoes from the defiant stand of Dumbledore's army to the silent protests of those living under real-world tyranny. It is a lesson that tyrants throughout history have tried and failed to erase. It is the simple, unbreakable truth that you cannot control a story once it has been told, and you cannot extinguish an idea once it has taken root in a free mind. The spell of oppression can feel absolute, but it is not eternal. So, here is how you break it. You name the evil, even when it calls itself good. You remember the truth, especially when it is being systematically erased. And most importantly, you resist the silence, because silence is the tyrant's greatest ally. You speak, you create, you question, you connect. That is the magic that Voldemort could never understand. And it is the magic that no regime, no matter how powerful, can ever truly defeat. So yes, if there's a Voldemort, have faith. You can speak, you can resist, you can remember, and if you do, you can have your own magic. Voldemort is the metaphor, the CCP is the mirror. We draw comparisons with the Chinese Communist Party not for shock value, but because it is the world's largest and most enduring totalitarian regime. Its system of control, rooted in surveillance, censorship, and ideological conformity, has shaped the lives of 1.4 billion people and cast a growing shadow across the globe. To understand modern totalitarianism, there's no more revealing parallel than the Chinese Communist Party. Like Voldemort, it is a shapeshifter, shedding ideologies, rewriting origin stories, and surviving by any means necessary. Once a revolutionary vanguard, now a capitalist leviathan wrapped in nationalism, it rules through fear, enforced loyalty, and total control of the narrative. While the world once believed economic growth would soften its grip, the opposite has happened. As its economic power expands, so do its tools of exploitation, deception, and repression. It adapts through pretension, but it never intended to change. Instead, it set out to change the world. It is not just a system that survives, it is a force that corrupts. The Chinese Communist Party is, in the clearest terms, the real-life embodiment of Voldemort's totalitarian ambition. The Chinese Communist Party is not a relic of the 20th century. It is a living system of control, designed to survive, expand, and dominate, not just its own people, but minds and markets far beyond its borders. Voldemort is the metaphor, the CCP is the mirror, and that mirror reflects more than one face. Totalitarianism is not confined to history books or distant regimes. Its methods, surveillance, disinformation, fear, and the corrosion of truth, can surface anywhere, even within long-standing democracies. The moment we believe it can't happen here is the moment we stop guarding what makes us free.